welcome to Film Raw here on Twitch, on Bunkazilla UK's Twitch channel. Hello, it is just gone 7:30 here. It is Wednesday the 2nd of September, and welcome to another live instalment of the podcast show. It's the place where we digest the latest movie news and movie reviews. I am, of course, your host, Ian Bolton, and I am joined, as always, by my cinematic partner in crime. It is Christian R. Allen.
Good afternoon.
It's evening, actually.
Oh, it is really, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, good evening. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad at all. How are you doing?
I'm thinking of changing my name.
Okay, to what?
Cinema Goth.
Well, you've got the pastel colours at the moment, so
I
don't know how it works. I don't know how it's going to work.
I'm a pastel goth, right? These are my work clothes. This is the last time I'll be wearing shorts for this show because it is now. I went outside and it is officially autumn.
Okay.
And so you lovely viewers, you get to see my beautiful hairy knees.
They are awfully hairy.
There's more hair on my knee than your entire body.
It's like a Brillo pad.
Is it as comfortable as a Brillo pad?
I'm not sure. I don't want to even go there in that terms of question.
We can go there. I don't mind.
So it's a film show, and we're already talking about hairy legs. It's a sign of things to come.
Whoa. Beautiful hairy legs.
Oh, fair enough. Beautiful hairy legs. Eggs. But of course, we are on Twitch, so do let us know what you've been watching this weekend. Have you been to the cinema to see Tenet? Have you seen the new Mutants? Or have you been watching some really good films on Netflix, on Amazon? Let us know in the chat. We'll read out a few comments later on if we have them.
I thought you were asking me, and you knew that I'd seen those films because we're reviewing them.
Yes. We'll be talking about those films later on. But obviously, we start off every show, as we do, with our cinematic wig. Now, usually I would have the screen. We'll be ready to go with all different film posters. But because we haven't done this for about 2 or 3 weeks, the list is ridiculously long. So I think we're limiting each other to what, 10 minutes? 10 minutes, give or take.
Did you just want to run down what you'd watched and give a brief?
I can do. Okay. I mean, it's like, this is why things like Letterboxd is really handy for film fans.
We're not sponsored by Letterboxd. But if Letterboxd are listening and they want to throw some
money,
get in touch.
Get in touch. Anyway, let's crack on. Shall I go first for my cinematic week?
Yeah, are you going to read the whole list out, or are we going to jump back and forth?
I'll do 2 because I can do 2 and 1 in one go.
Go on.
And then we'll go back and forth. But yes, we'll try not to spend too long on this, and we'll move over to some very important news very, very soon. But yes, I've recently watched the OSS 117 series with Jean Dujardin. Now, this was the kind of... Now, this is a French spoof film. It's based on a very popular French franchise in France. Obviously, because it's French. I'm learning.
Not Germany.
No, not Germany. But no,
sorry.
The OSS 117 series is basically France's equivalent of James Bond. Pretty
more
much
tongue in cheek by the films of it.
But these films by Jean Dujardin, who he stars as the epitomed secret agent, this is more of a tongue-in-cheek satirical take of the Sean Connery Bond era, give or take. So 2 films. He did Cairo Nest of Spies in 2006, and basically he's sent to Cairo to investigate the disappearance of a fellow agent who has a cover story of running a chicken farm in Cairo. And he just, instead of actually focusing on his mission, he decides to be more invested in the chicken farm itself and all the other bits and pieces going on around him, rather than the actual mission of spies and Nazis and all that sort of stuff. And I kind of feel like they are the films Johnny English should have been, to a degree, because it's like Dujardin, he's like, yes, he's a spy, but he's such an ignorant, arrogant, idiotic imbecile at times. It's like you kind of cringe at really awkward moments of when he's clearly being very wrong about something, like religion or something like that. But then you kind of laugh when he gets his comeuppance a little bit.
So it's kind of like it's David Brent as Inspector Clouseau.
Yeah, but a lot more charming, I suppose. Yeah. In a French comedic genre, because Jordan Jardin won the Oscar for The Artist. Really, really good. And OSS 117 Lost in Rio, which came out a few years later. I mean, it came out about 2008, 2009, just before he started in work on The Artist. I might be wrong, I do apologise. Basically, he goes to Rio trying to find a microfilm, and again, discovers upon Nazis and Nazi luchador wrestlers as well.
I'm sure that's been a gimmick in the WWE.
It might have been. It might have been.
Or at least one territory back in the day.
I mean, if I had more time, I would probably gush a lot more. But if you wanted to make it a bit more sharper than Johnny English, check them out. They are definitely worth watching. So those are my first two on my what we've watched. What have you got?
My first two of the films I've watched last week are very similar in tone. It's Flags of Our Fathers and Hacksaw Ridge.
Oh, right. So we're going back to the World War II.
Well, the last film I spoke about was Letters from Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
And so Flags of Our Fathers is the companion piece.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't do as well critically and commercially in the States as the Japanese film, which is interesting. I think if Flags is a 5-star movie, if Iwo Jima is a 5-star movie, then this is a 4-star movie. There is a noticeable drop. I don't want to say in quality because it's still a fine movie and it's definitely worth your time. And it's very good at portraying the sort of the psychological impact of war on soldiers afterwards, and particularly these soldiers, the way they were used as propaganda pieces, basically to encourage more bonds in the war, and the sort of the toll it took on them, where they're being removed from the conflict, and their brethren at arms are being slaughtered. So it's a very good film, and it works well as a companion piece. But Letters to Iwo Jima is objectively a better war movie.
Okay.
And then Hacksaw Ridge, which as I watched it, I hadn't realised was a Mel Gibson production, and halfway
isn't he Oscar nominated for this one?
Yeah, and rightly so. I think it might be better than Saving Private Ryan. I think it's one of the most outstanding movies I've ever watched in my life. That's Ian's shocked face.
That's a bold claim. Explain.
Have you seen it?
I have not seen Hacksaw Ridge, no.
So Andrew Garfield plays I've forgotten his name. This is the problem with rushing through these films. Real life. If you want to search for me the name of the character, because it's like disrespectful. The first recipient of the Medal of Honor who happened to be a conscientious objector. So he signed up. He signed up to partake in the war because he felt that he couldn't let his country down.
His name, for those interested, is Desmond Doss.
Yes, Desmond Doss. Thank you. That would have really annoyed me all the way through the episode. The Desmond Doss, as portrayed by Andrew Garfield, is one of the bravest, most inspiring characters in the history of film. And you read about the real figure, and what the real person did was even crazier, even braver. But Mel Gibson toned his life story down a bit because he thought it was a bit too unbelievable.
Okay.
Basically, he was a conscientious objector, signed up to the war, and refused to hold a gun. He was persecuted by his own soldiers, his own sergeant. He had a hell of a time. And the film's kind of it's similar to Full Metal Jacket. And it's like the first half is the training. Vince Vaughn plays the sergeant, and he's he's excellent. He's really good in it. Like, it just pops up and goes, it's Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn.
Andrew Garfield, he totally stole the show. And Hugo Weaving is in there as well, playing his father.
Oh, yeah.
He also suffering the psychological scars from the First World War. But yeah, basically, Andrew Garfield's character, he would run through battlefields unarmed as the Japanese are, like, massacring them, and pick up as many of his fellow countrymen and some of the enemy as possible. And he rescued countless soldiers who were left for dead.
Oh, wow.
And it's just it's emotionally overpowering and inspiring piece. I think it's Mel Gibson's best work by far. I think it's better than Braveheart. Halfway through the film, I was like, this feels like a Mel Gibson movie because it's got the violence is so visceral. He's very good at capturing the horror of warfare. I would recommend that. And for some reason, going to my next two movies, we just stuck to war, specifically the Vietnam War.
Have you got an obsession? Before we carry on with your next one, if I could just ask you just to move your little microphone across so it's a bit more central to you, because when you're talking to me at the moment, it's just...
How does that sound?
If you could just bring it a little bit further across, actually. Sorry, but it's because we just want to make sure you have the best audio experience possible for the show.
Do people really want to listen to me? I mean, I'll be flattered if they do. But
that's the point of the show, isn't it?
Probably. I thought they're just going to see me. They've got to play it on mute and just watch me do it.
But yes, please continue. Apologies for the interruption.
No, not at all. We watched The Deer Hunter and Full Metal Jacket because we thought to ourselves, we're too happy right now. Especially after Hacksaw Ridge, which is bloody awful in the best possible sense of the word. I mean, I take it you've seen those films.
Full Metal Jacket and what was the other one?
The Deer Hunter. With
I've seen Full Metal Jacket. I have not seen The Deer Hunter.
Deer Hunter's an interesting one. It's quite. Most of the film's set before and after. I think there's only about 40 minutes of it's 3 hours long, but the 40-minute middle act is just thrown straight into the Vietnam War and the soldiers' experience as being prisoners of war and being forced to play Russian roulette. The build-up is so slow that you get a feel. You get more of a feel for the character and their industrial town. And it's really interesting. It's an interesting examination of the psychology of a soldier, and Christopher Walken is particularly excellent in it.
He won his Oscar for that, didn't he?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
I'm pretty certain he did.
I wouldn't be surprised because he is fantastic in it. And De Niro as well. He's also excellent.
Yeah, we'll just double check.
You're double checking that. And
Deer Hunter. Tell me what this has won. Tell me everything this has won.
Thankfully, we have an iPad and Wikipedia.
I am the man of knowledge.
This is how we keep winning pub quizzes. We just bring a phone. Use a phone. It's great. You get some funny looks, but you're still winning.
Well, carry on talking about it. I'll look into this.
I enjoyed Deer Hunter. My partner really took to it, but I didn't quite connect to it on an emotional level. But it's definitely worth your time if you haven't seen it. But I love Full Metal Jacket. I'm a huge Stanley Kubrick mark anyway. And the drill sergeant he floors me every time he goes on his mad rants. And I believe the drill sergeant was a real drill sergeant who Stanley Kubrick just unleashed on these poor actors.
Just to go back to the Deer Hunter, just briefly, he did win the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for the Deer Hunter.
Right, and probably rightly so, to be honest. So watch the Deer Hunter, watch Full Metal Jacket. I really enjoyed those films. I mean, I've seen Full Metal Jacket countless times.
I'm pretty certain we watched it during university studies.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting because it's effectively 2 movies in one. It's the training and then there's the war.
Yeah, Do
you find the training more disturbing than the warfare scenes? Because I do.
Yeah,
they're not easy scenes, either of them.
I would say the training is the unpleasant part. The war, there's quite a lot of Vietnam wars that deal with the horrors of the war in its own self. I mean, one of the latest ones is the Five Bloods.
Yeah.
Which I watched. Very visceral, very powerful. Great performances all around, including the late Chadwick Boseman, who we will be talking about very shortly. But yeah, I think this is sometimes. I think we've talked about this before on the show, where we get oversaturated with a lot of war stuff, and it's not a bad thing. Obviously, these are big events that we need to know about. We need to understand, and we need to have those for prosperity, and we need to understand our history for moving forward.
They just lend themselves to the cinematic medium anyway, as well.
Yeah, and they do lend themselves to the cinematic medium. But I think sometimes for every Full Metal Jacket, for every Saving Private Ryan, and so forth, we get countless other films that are just not necessarily hitting the mark, or just kind of
they're copycats.
They are copycats in a sense, and it's basically the ones that I think deal with it from an interesting angle and deal with it in a more thought-provoking manner. They become the films that have the lasting legacy, if that makes sense.
No, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
And I think the films I mentioned, they fall into those categories. What's your next two?
Next two? We did Superman 3 last time we did the video podcast.
No.
I'm going to briefly touch on Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. The Quest for Peace. The Quest for Peace.
Did we talk about this on the phone? Didn't you say you preferred this to 3?
Shockingly, I actually do prefer this to 3, and I'm going to explain why. 1, it's a decent length. It's 90 minutes.
It's only 90 minutes?
Yeah.
Is it because they run out of money from
possibly
run out of film?
It's 90 minutes. The storyline is a Superman film. It is a Superman story at its heart. It is, because the basic plot line, for those who haven't dared go near The Quest for Peace, basically Superman decides to put his foot into world politics and tries to make the world a better place by taking out nuclear weapons, all that sort of stuff. But then obviously Lex Luthor, once again played by Gene Hackman, breaks out of prison and thinks, you know what, I'm going to use this nuclear weapon stuff to kind of create my own superhero and dominate the nuclear power market, all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
But the fact is, at least, despite the fact that there are some there's still some odd things here. I mean, it's like the Nuclear Man has the voice of Lex Luthor, and it's very, very weird. There's the weird corporate takeover of the Daily Planet, which is kind of like a subplot, because you have the new owner's daughter having a thing for Clark, but then Superman has a thing for... There's some very awkward sort of romantic comedy escapades halfway through the film. Not really that great, but...
In a 90-minute film.
But the fact of the matter is, my problem with Superman 3, and I talked about it when we did this at the last episode, the problem is it didn't feel like a Superman film, it felt like a Richard Pryor film.
Yeah, it was. It was a vehicle for him, absolutely.
And this feels a lot more like a Superman film.
But does that mean it's necessarily good?
It's not great, and you kind of get the whole sort of... There is a preachy aspect to it, I guess, hopefully, probably with the whole nuclear war thing, and John saying, think about the children, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, me saying it's better than 3, it's not like it's a 5-star film. It's still quite terrible. They use the same sort of Superman flying towards the camera technique over and over and over again. So it's like, now imagine that 20 times in the film when Superman needs to fly.
It's the same cut.
It's the same cut. It is the absolute same cut. And it just shows how poor the special effects are.
What special effects?
Yeah, they clearly didn't have a budget for them.
What did you think when Nuclear Man was born in his costume with no explanation as to how this actually happened?
Didn't this happen? I know it didn't happen in the comic books, but I'm sure there've been superheroes that have just been born and had costumes.
Yes, but I could appreciate you enjoying it more than 3, but what I would contrast it with, and with 3 as well, the decline from 1 to 4.
Yeah, it's not good.
Shocking. How do you go from what is still arguably one of the greatest comic book movies of all time to that?
I don't know, but at least it was short, and it wasn't like I was sort of looking at my phone. I didn't really message you that much during Superman 4.
Because you were entertained.
Because I was entertained and just kind of going, this is rubbish. But you know what? I'm enjoying it for the rubbishness that it is. So, Superman 4, let's quickly touch upon Jumanji Next Level, part of family movie watch night. It's an okay sequel. I think the fact of the matter is no one expected Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle to be any good.
It was fun. I've never had the urge to rewatch it.
Yeah, it's fun, it's enjoyable, but it was kind of like they were just going back to the well for this one. Obviously, they bring along Danny DeVito and Danny Glover, which helps, which sort of makes it a little bit fun. But again, it's more or less the same. It's the same sort of premise: complete the game, win.
So it's just a tired rehash.
It is partially a tired rehash. There's some little bits in there that do work, and I do like, but overall, it is more of the same, and that's a great thing if you really, really love Jumanji. But for me, it's kind of like it's all right. Carry on with everything. But anyway, let's. You got a couple more films to go.
I've got about 8 more films to go.
How many?
Do you want to go? I mean, I went on a bit of a De Niro binge, and I watched the 4-hour cut of Once Upon a Time in America, Sergio Leone's epic final, film before his death.
I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you watch it all in one go, or did you have to take breaks?
Of course, I had to take breaks. My bladder. Gosh, I mean, it's really sad knowing about it because the film was when the film debuted. I believe it debuted at Cannes. No, it might have been the Venice Film Festival. But anyway, when it debuted in Europe, it was uncut to acclaim. The American studio got hold of it, cut it by 2 hours, resequenced the film in chronological order, and turned into basically a boring, really kind of. I don't know. It's so strange because it was a box office bomb, and critics didn't like it. It was only in the last 10 years since basically the DVD cut.
So basically, they just looked at the film and spent, it's like, I don't want to go back and forth through time. I just want something nice. I want something simple, something for the 4 hours. Here we go.
I can't imagine watching the film as described because, I mean, it's long. But some films need to be long. It is an epic. There's no wasted scenes. And in fact, apparently there's even more footage that's been recently discovered. So there'll be another 24 minutes one day. When we get
4.5 hours.
Yeah,
wonderful.
when we get. It's not as bad as Glad Zabel's Napoleon.
Fair enough.
Which is like I think that was like nearly 12 hours at one point.
Oh bloody hell!
I think it only survives as 5. Yeah, it's very good. It is. You do need to take a break or two. I mean, there was an intermission. They've kept it on the Blu-ray, which is nice.
Well, they had the intermission on like Godfather Part 2, and it went intermission. Carry on.
Well, I guess because you can pause it. I mean, like, the greatest intermission of all time is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Timed perfectly so people have gotten up and then stopped. And then, sticking with De Niro, we watched Taxi Driver.
Oh, yes. According to Watch Mojo, the best psychological thriller of all time.
I mean, I watched it as a teenager. I didn't really get it. I'll be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I'm the same with you on that one. Yeah. I watched it young and thought, what's the big deal about this? Yeah. I haven't watched it for a long time, and I probably do need to revisit it. I think the similarities to the Joker might put me off a little bit, I guess.
I mean, you can tell the Joker is derivative of Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
I mean, not rip-off, I'd say, but definitely homage. They are different movies, though. And okay. I re-evaluating this as a 30-year-old, I appreciate this film so much more. It's maybe in my top 10 of all time. I really took to this, and I would really recommend it. It's strange watching Robert De Niro being so uncomfortable. Just his character, is Travis Baxter or something like that?
Yeah.
So
Travis Bickle.
Bickle, thank you. I think Travis Baxter's a member of Blink-182.
Possibly.
I don't know. I haven't watched Kerrang! In 20 years.
A lot of film fans might have just spat out their coffee.
I haven't watched Taxi Driver for 15 years, and I've only just rewatched it. And listen, fanboys, I think it's excellent, so don't hate me. Don't hate me. The Blu-ray, by the way, the quality of the picture was pristine. It looked great. So they've done it. Whoever done it.
Is that 4K or standard blue?
Just standard blue. I don't think it's been a 4K yet. And we stuck on the. Do you want to name a couple more? Because I've got so many films.
Well, I can whittle through.
Do you want to whittle for yours, and then I'll just list what I've watched, and then you can pick up any films. Okay,
cool.
Yeah.
So I watched. What was it? I finished off the DC animated U with Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. Basically, it's the last film of like a 20-block film group of DC animations, because they've gone into a pattern of just having the same animations type and the same sort of voice cast and so forth like that. So this is like the big payoff, and basically the premise behind it is Superman leads an assault on his Apocalypse planet or whatever it is. And Darkseid. Sorry, comic book fans. Darkseid.
Hey, Warner Brothers don't even know the difference anymore.
True. So yeah, Superman leads an assault on Darkseid. However, Darkseid knows they're coming and brutally massacres at least 3/4 of them. This is a 15-rated film, and there are some very graphic deaths in this. And then we pick up the film about 2 years later. Darkseid's taken over Earth, but a small band of people are still fighting against him. Superman, who's had all his powers drained and became mortal. Raven, who's still trying to fight off her demon dad. Constantine, who is just wanting to get pissed and just enjoy the end of the world. He's meant
to be the highlight of this film.
Yeah. Well, they bring in Matt Ryan, who played Constantine for the short-lived live-action film. Not live-action film, live-action series. Yeah, film was Keanu, wasn't he? And then he's been popping up in things like Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow and so forth. So basically, if anything has John Constantine, they just go back, come, voice. Okay. I hear he's a lovely guy. So basically they just have to, they attempt to try and correct everything, and it's kind of the end of that universe and resetting it in a way, I suppose. It's all right. I'm looking forward to some of the newer stuff that's coming out, like Man of Tomorrow's Superman. It's looking at like Superman Year Zero or Year One, so like the first year of him being Superman. So the animation style is bright, it's vibrant, it's different. And there's also Batman Death in the Family, which if you get it on Blu-ray, it's this weird interactive movie, which is basically you basically get the chance to relive the Death in the Family storyline as a comic book reader.
Oh, you can vote for Robin.
You can decide whether or not Jason Todd is blown up and butchered by the Joker, or he just eats eggs.
Do you think the DC at the time thought that the fans would vote for his death?
No, well, it was only like a small margin, wasn't it? Like a couple hundred votes.
Was it that?
Yeah,
oh.
It was very, very marginal. But without that, you wouldn't get stories such as, I think, Under the Red Hood, which is one of the better DC animated films. If you have a chance to go watch that.
I was sort of thinking of Return of the Joker, Batman Beyond.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it's like very excellent.
Those two DC films look more interesting. I've had like middling success with the DC animated universe in that way.
Yes, they seem to be quite hit and miss.
Yeah. I also watched a Simpsons movie.
Good man.
Revisiting this after I saw it for the first time in cinema, I thought there was something wrong with my TV because I forgot the first bits in like really squinty box size because they have an Itchy and Scratchy cartoon, and then it sort of goes up to full widescreen. I was kind of thinking, is there something wrong with my TV again, or have they messed up the aspect ratio again? This was nice. I think
it's definitely the best episode in the last 20 years.
Basically it's better than most of the current Simpsons stuff at the moment.
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah.
You okay?
Oh, sorry, I'm just looking at some of the comments coming through. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, it's better than some of the. It's better than
Modern Simpsons is rubbish. That's what you were saying.
Yeah, Modern Simpsons was rubbish. It was better than some of that. The story's a bit so-so though. It still feels like it's an extended episode.
Yeah.
There's little bits and pieces I do like. I like Albert Brooks reappearing again. I think it would be nice if it was Hank Scorpio though.
Well, you know why it's not Hank Scorpio? Because it was meant to be. Apparently it was meant to be Hank Scorpio as the antagonist. Then they realised he wouldn't be a dick to Homer.
Ah, okay.
So that's why they created a new character for him, even though it's clearly meant to be Hank Scorpio. Like, my favourite part is just it's just Rainier Wolfcastle, now just called President Schwarzenegger.
Yes, that is me.
It's the best bit of the film.
That is me.
It was weird, man. It was like for 6 months after that film, people would not stop quoting Spider Pig or Harry Plopper.
Oh God, Spider Pig, yeah. Spider Pig, Spider Pig. Oh,
the worst thing about the film actually is I was working as an usher at Cineworld whilst doing a film school, and there's that little bit from Squeaky Voice Teen in the end credits where he's cleaning the popcorn and he goes, 4 years for film school for this, and I was just like, oh no.
You've become that person.
Oh, that joke's at my expense.
You have become that person. But yeah, overall, I think some of the movies are okay. I mean, it was nice to revisit it after a long while, but again, it's something I wouldn't necessarily go out of the way to watch over and over and over again.
Unless you like The Simpsons.
Unless you really like The Simpsons, yeah. I think some of the guest spots are good. Tom Hanks is great.
Oh,
the Tom Hanks spot is amazing.
Please. Leave me alone.
Please, leave me be. Give my hair a tussle, Tom Hanks. Okay. All that sort of stuff.
Green Day are good in it as well.
There are some subtle character moments that I do like. I like the sort of ultimatum Marge gives Homer towards the end of the film, taking over the marriage video. Yeah. A little bit. I like that so much. Because for once, I was kind of thinking, oh, wow, they're actually sort of moving forward. They're actually being a little bit more... they're being a bit more thoughtful about developing these characters. No, everything goes back to normal.
Well, it is The Simpsons.
That is Simpsons. Everything just goes back to normal.
There's even an episode I watched recently where Lisa... it's Homer's best friend where he befriends Ned. He's got that wonderful Terminator 2 chase. The golf clubs.
He's gaining, Dad.
Of course, the bush scene where he just emerges out of it. Bart's worried about it, and Lisa goes like, "Don't worry, I find that after a week or so, everything kind of resets and we'll go on a new crazy adventure." I am paraphrasing. I'm not quoting specific, exactly.
But that's exactly what happens in The Simpsons.
But yeah, that's American sitcoms in general, and it is a meta show. Do you want to give you a quick rundown of what I've watched?
Yep, you go for your last round, and then we're done here.
So, I watched Falling Down, You Were Never Really Here, Gladiator, Matchstick Men, Secrets and Lies. That's amazing, by the way. I do recommend that if you haven't seen it. Instant Family, and The Other Guys. What would you like to talk about?
So Other Guys is a really good Will Ferrell. It's not necessarily my go-to Will Ferrell Mark Wahlberg combination. I mean, it's the best of their combinations together. I mean, you had Daddy's Hand, but you ignore that bit. Yeah. But there are certain bits because it was pretty much Adam McKay having like a kind of like a dig at obviously American business in Wall Street.
It felt like if this didn't inspire him to do The Big Short,
this was on the way to doing The Big Short.
Yeah, with Steve Coogan basically being the embodiment of everything wrong with capitalism.
Yeah, true.
And he's great at playing a sleazebag.
Some of the best bits in that film is when he's being interrogated by Ferrell and Wahlberg, and he goes, guys, do you want to know the horrible truth, or do you want tickets to Mamma Mia? Or Wicked.
It's Jersey Boys.
Or Jersey Boys, and they go to Jersey Boys, and they come back the next day.
It's halfway through. It's a bribe, isn't it?
It's a bribe. Right, let's go back. And then they come back and say, and then it was basically like, okay, I messed up. You were so right. Jersey Boys was amazing. He's saying, I know.
I realised there were no moments where I laughed. I chuckled all the way through the film. I didn't laugh loud. I did find I thought Dwayne Johnson and Samuel L. Jackson were amazing, but I think the best secondary character was actually Michael Keaton as the chief.
He keeps quoting TLC
Yes,
songs.
he does. I know, Scrub. Like, it's a transformation when he's in his second job.
The Bed Bath and Beyond.
And he accidentally starts reading police reports. It's like, oh, ignore that. But you should probably don't ignore that. Like, just stay safe.
Oh, wasn't it? It's like you go and goes, oh, and by the way, there's a known murderer in the area. He doesn't like these sort of people, so just stay clear of that. Oh wait, that's the wrong file.
But Mark Wahlberg, he's got great comedy timing.
Oh yeah, I think this was the film a lot of people just realised, hang on a minute, he's quite funny.
Well, I mean, in his early role, like in Boogie Nights, which I talked about a few weeks ago, he's hilarious in that.
But there's also he was good supporting Three Kings. Three Kings,
that's a great movie.
Pain and Gain, I think, is often not mentioned in that equation.
I haven't seen it. I've heard very bad things. Because it was meant to be Michael Bay's serious drama, wasn't it?
It's typical Michael Bay shenanigans, just without the big budget action sequences. So it's basically, I want to do a drama scene just with awesome explosions, that sort of way. But no, they are. It was quite funny at times because basically Wahlberg, Anthony Mackie and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, they're all these sort of like steroid-ridden bodybuilders, and they have come up with a plan to sort of kidnap this rich man, then sort of ransom him off, and they kind of just go, look at us, we're peak physical specimens. We only it's like the Green Berets can only the Green Berets or Green Marines or whatever they are. They take people in less than 15 seconds. We can do this in 7.
The problem of the film is that they're the protagonist, and you just can't get behind them at all.
No, they're horrible people.
Why would you watch horrible people do like? Oh.
But I think The Rock does barbecue a hand or a foot during the film for some reason, and it just pops up on the screen. It's like, yes, this actually happened.
Oh, is it a true story?
It's based on a true story.
Bloody hell!
I think you may need to experience it at some point.
What other films I watched would you like to discuss, or would you like to move on?
I think we're coming about halfway. We're coming up about 30 minutes in now, so I think we've done a good bit. But
watch Secrets and Lies, amazing film, like from Mike Leigh. Also, You Were Never Really Here, very good as well.
I hear good things about that.
Yeah.
Is that Lynn Ramsey?
Yes.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah.
After we need to talk about Kevin, which I will never watch that film again. It was excellent, but I'm never watching it again. I cannot deal with that emotional trauma.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But You Were Never Really Here. I'll probably revisit a few times.
Okay, cool. And as always, do let us know what you've been watching and what do you think of the films we've been covering so far in the Twitch chat. We would love to hear from you. Right, let's move on to some news, shall we? And it's not good news, to be honest.
That's bloody awful. I'm still processing it, to be honest.
Well, it's the one you really can't escape at the moment. And let's bring it up on the screen here. Yeah, it is the passing of Chadwick Boseman, who passed away, I think last Friday.
Friday, yes.
At the age of 43, due to colon cancer. The basic thing was he was diagnosed with this back in 2016, but he did not reveal this. This was never public. I think a lot of people did not know about this until his passing.
Well, that means he played. So he was T'Challa, all the way while suffering from this terrible disease.
He was, I think.
I mean that the physical strain that kind of role would put on someone who isn't suffering from cancer is incredible. So the fact that he was able to do that shows just the sheer tenacity of this person. Like, how incredible is that grit? I
mean, the fact is he was diagnosed with, I'm just reading from the statement his family gave.
Yeah.
Chadwick was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer in 2016 and battled with it for these last 4 years as it progressed to stage 4. So I think Civil War was 2016?
That's 16, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it must have filmed just before, that particular film must have filmed just before diagnosis. I might be wrong. No one knows. But certainly that's Black Panther, the 2 Avengers movies, and then you've got 21 Bridges and 21 Bridges as well. I mean, yeah. So from Marshall to the Five Bloods, August Wilson, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and several more.
That's upcoming.
That's upcoming from Netflix, as well as Black Panther as well. And even the Infinity War Endgame things all were filmed during and between cancer surgeries and chemotherapy.
That's mad. What a truly inspiring and brave human being.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of state I don't know if I could function barely as a human being if I got a diagnosis like that.
And I think we've talked on other Bunkazilla bits and pieces about Black Panther in particular, but Black Panther was something.
Yeah,
it was an absolute.
It's beyond a movie. It's a moment. It's an actual cultural moment. It was so important for so many like young African Americans. Just like, and even beyond that, it's just a really really good film. It's one of my favourite in the MCU, and like I think it's right to get the Oscar nomination. I didn't quite process it. It was the last time I felt this way about a celebrity death was probably Heath Ledger, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, because Heath Ledger passed just after he finished filming Dark Knight, wasn't he? And that was the one. That was someone again. Not many people saw coming. I mean, even like Paul Walker.
Yeah.
For Paul Walker in Fast and Furious, again, that's someone you don't really expect.
Well, just the prime of their career, and going back to Chadwick Boseman, like just those incredible films, those incredible performances he was able to do in such short amount of time. I feel like, I mean, obviously what he's been, his family's been cheated from, a husband, father, but which is obviously the worst thing about this. But the world has also like been cheated out of what should have been decades worth of great performances, like more inspiring. Like he would have just gotten better and better. I mean, he already was. I don't think he's given a bad performance, or he gave a bad performance in his life.
I mean, I'm just looking at some of his roles here. He's played a lot of real life figures. Jackie Robinson in 42.
Yes.
The film I really need to go out and see at some point in the next couple of days. Get On Up, when he's playing James Brown.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to see that as well.
I hear really good things about that one as well. 21 Bridges is a good cop thriller. It's a nice short cop thriller as well. It's only like an hour and 40, but he's a really good lead in that. We've talked about The Five Bloods. The Five Bloods, he's really, really good. Again, it's a very small role, and it makes a lot more sense why it's a very small role now, I guess.
Yeah, it's strange, because it was oddly enough, there've been rumours for months that he was being dropped as Black Panther, the actual character, and it was going to be replaced by his the younger sister character. And it was interesting seeing the kind of the Twitter outrage. In hindsight, it makes, if that's the direction they're going to go down, it makes sense.
It's a conversation that obviously Marvel will need to make. It's just at this time it's probably not the best time. There was a publication which that was the point I was going to go to. Yes. Which I'm not going to mention because I don't want to give them much attention to it.
Well, we won't name them, but
there was at least one well-known movie website that decided to do an article about what happens now that Chadwick Boseman's died, and it's like, and this
within minutes,
and this was like within a few hours of his passing being announced, and it's like, that is completely the wrong time and place, and because people are still processing grief, people are still processing how they feel.
It's just so strange that he's no longer with us. Yeah. It's through the characters you form these bonds with these performers, because they're able to realise them. And I love the Black Panther character. Really, really fell in love with that character. And just to know that we're not going to get anything more like that, it's just really sad.
Yeah.
I was just a bit heartbroken and numb, as with the rest of the world.
I remember I woke up on Friday. I woke up a little bit early, about 5 or 6 a.m. and I checked my phone. And then it's like I saw like the family statement being the first thing, and I kind of went, "What?"
I just kept seeing clips from the film retweeted all day. I was like, before I kind of realised in that morning, before I realised what was happening or had happened.
And it's kind of like, again, another thing is, unfortunately, it's the whole advent of things like fake news and stuff like that. Is obviously when something gets published, you want to double check this is right, because
why would you want this to be right?
No, I don't. You obviously don't want this to be right. But it's kind of like you want to make sure it's fake or something like that. Exactly. So the moment I saw that, I just immediately just went to BBC News and so on, and it was like the main story, and it's like, oh, and it's like it really just It's really stunning. Well, it's not stunning. It's stunning in the wrong way, but it's just.
It is. It's stunning with all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Ruffalo, who plays the Hulk, said tragedies amassing this year have only been made more profound by his death. Tom Holland, who played Spider-Man, called Boseman a role model for millions around the world. Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth said they are heartbroken by his death. But yeah, there were lots and lots of tons of tributes, and I think every Marvel fan was shocked by this. And one of the classiest things as well, which I noticed on Twitter, and I think a lot of people did as well, is even DC Comics shared in the loss as well. It's like they acknowledged how monumental the passing is, or quite what impact Chadwick Boseman's had.
Yeah, it was the images of young kids. Young African Americans like arranging funerals for their action figures. With like, have you seen any of these pictures?
I have not. No.
Oh, it's so sad, man. It's really heartbreaking. Yeah. I mean, like, what a legacy to leave behind, though. It's what a legacy it was, despite dying at such a like awful young age. I mean, I just can't help feeling what the world's been. The world's had been cheated out of a bright light there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he seems like such a genuine, lovely person as well.
There's lots of things that have gone around the internet. I think it's Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon, one of the two. It was the whole setup where they brought in people who had watched Black Panther and who...
Denzel Washington in particular.
I'll mention Denzel in a second. But they were sort of talking to how much of an impact Black Panther as a hero on a cinema screen meant to them. And he was just there to say, hello. You just pop out and say, "Oh, hello, thanks for saying some nice things." And it was generally a lovely thing to see.
Yeah.
The other thing as well, you mentioned about Denzel Washington. This is one of the stories you pick up after such tragic news. Is like Denzel Washington paid for his education to Oxford, or contributed to the cost towards Oxford as well. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. that's. I mean, I like I know Denzel Washington talking about Black Panther and how how it impacted him as well. So strange full circles here.
Yeah.
But no, I'm exactly with you. I was just kind of numb and heartbroken that day, and I still can't quite. Just don't think the world's going to get over this one.
Yeah.
So raise a glass. Watch Black Panther.
Yeah, watch Black Panther. Watch any of the films that Chadwick Boseman has shined in. Yeah. Like I said, I've only seen out of the back catalogue, apart from Black Panther and The Five Bloods, I've seen 21 Bridges. I really want to see. I was watching trailers for some of the films like Marshall, like 42, and going up. And these all
42 looks very good.
Those are all films that 42 has Harrison Ford in that as well. Yeah. Those are three films that I probably would find some time to watch in the next coming week or so. It'll be nice to revisit them, obviously, to celebrate the talent that's sadly been lost. So that's the only news topic we have. I mean, it is the big movie news that we cannot avoid, and we have to pay respects here. We did our First Thoughts podcast. This time last week, we were doing our First Thoughts podcast, and we both agreed that we need to go see it again. Have you managed to go see it again?
No.
One job, Christian. One job.
I promised to take my partner's 30th birthday in like a week's time, so I'm going to take it to see it again then. But I've been mulling the film over in my head, and I've been rereading it, and so my opinions have settled.
There we go. Let's have some images from Tenet there.
Look, handsome men there.
Look at the handsome John David Washington and Robert Pattinson. Look at them on spy missions all across the world.
They're both 10s out of 10.
But but yes, this film is basically John David Washington plays a man simply known as the protagonist, and after taking part in a dangerous operation, he is recruited into a secret organization and given one word and one word only: Tenet. And from there, he discovers that the world might be at stake, and he must consult things like... It's very hard for me to describe this film. I think you can tell right now.
Basically,
there's a line.
Timey-wimey.
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 Ever watch Backwards, the Series 3 opener for Red Dwarf? That with a $100 million budget.
I'm pretty certain it's probably $200 million budget.
That with a $200 million budget. I don't think the entire budget of Red Dwarf's 30-year history comes even close to like £500,000 quid, let alone.
Oh Lord! But we've talked about Tenet last week. I mean, we were talking about initial impressions, and I think one of the key things is you can. I think I found out I was probably overwhelmed by the spectacle of it all last week. And that's not a bad thing. I think visually, this is still a great film. I think in terms of all the practicality of the special effects and so forth, there are some really, really good bits here. Really, really good bits. I did manage to see a second time. A second time round was a lot more. I think second time round I enjoyed it just as much because now I had an idea of the story. I had an idea of how the lore and the universe works. So the whole thing about time inversion when it becomes pivotal to the plot, you kind of, having watched it once, you can kind of go, right, this character is going forward through time. This character might be going backwards through time, and so forth. And I think that gives a better appreciation of the logistics of the film. I still found it really enjoyable. I think John David Washington's a very good, charismatic lead. Robert Pattinson is really, really good in this as well.
Yeah, I think he excels in terms of performances.
We talked about this on the first What's podcast, which you can listen to on all good podcast platforms like Apple, Spotify right now. Even Kenneth Branagh is very, very terrified in this. Elizabeth Debicki does some really nice.
I think she gives a.
I think she gives a good performance with what she's given because when you look back and you think about it, she's playing the estranged wife of Kenneth Branagh's villain, and basically she is technically it's a damsel in distress role in a way. Isn't it?
No, it absolutely is. Which is a bit of a Nolan. What's the word?
Trope.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a Nolan trope. So I think she was definitely a bit more of a fleshed out character than some previous sort of like
absolutely
I think some female characters in Christopher Nolan movies are a bit window dressing, to be honest, which is a shame. But like, I'm still a huge fan of his, and I thinking about this, I'm not sure if I rate this as highly as I did when it came out. I feel like this film didn't really connect to me on an emotional level the same way, say, Inception did. Because with Inception, it still had the grand spectacle, which sucked you in. And it was just, like, overpowering at times. But you for some reason with Inception, and I can't put my finger on it why, I just took to those characters more. And that's not a criticism of the characters at all. I think it might be, might not have found the motivations throughout this as compelling because it is a little bit. This is the most James Bond-esque of Christopher Nolan's movies. It is kind of a bit too convoluted in terms of the stakes. Because you look at a film like Dark Knight, what I like about Dark Knight is that the stakes are not. It's not particularly grandiose. It's not end of the world kind of stuff. It's a few hundred lives on a boat. So and that I find that those kind of things more impactful. Or with Inception, it's DiCaprio's character's life, and it's a bit more. Yeah, there's a bit more to get behind on an emotional level. With this, the grand scheme of things was just a bit too abstract, and that's excluding the time travel element. I in terms of as being a sci-fi fan, I thought that this is one of the better time traveling movies. Oddly enough, it's similar in some respects, not just to Backwards, the Red Dwarf episode. Have you ever seen that before?
I think I have seen it. I don't remember it.
It's one of my favourites. Basically, they think they've gone in the past, but they've actually gone in the future. So then, 1987, after the big crunch, so the universe is now running backwards. The main characters do a trick show by eating things forwards. So everyone else's perspective looks like they're vomiting whole food. And also it's quite similar to Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Oh yeah, did we touch upon that on the podcast?
I think we talked about it beforehand, but we didn't really talk about it on the podcast. But I would say out of all the films that attempt time travel, I'd put this. I reckon this is up there, similar to 12 Monkeys actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So it uses time travel very well. I just don't think there is as much as an emotional hook as Nolan's previous movies. I know Nolan's criticised for being an unemotional filmmaker. I don't think that's true at all. I just think the way he explores emotions is quite different to what we're used to. They're not stereotypical. They're not particularly what's the word I'm looking for? Not cliched. Sickly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not schmaltzy. That's the word, schmaltzy.
There we go, schmaltzy.
I think people can mistake a Nolan movie for being quite cold, when actually there is a lot of emotional stakes normally resonating through the character journeys, and this is just a little bit too abstract, I found.
Yeah.
Did my rant make any sense just then?
Probably then watching Tenet for the first time, probably.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you with the emotional bit. I think I've had a few conversations with people online about the film already, and I think there are a bit, like I said in the podcast bit, there are bits I think the film does spectacularly well against other Nolan films, like the action set pieces.
Oh, the set pieces are incredible all the way through.
I'm a big fan of those. I am completely with you about the emotional part of the film. The emotional bit does not feel intimate. It does not feel personal like it did in Inception. You get drawn into Leonardo DiCaprio because you want to see him go home. You feel sorry for the guy. Yes, he's done some very silly things to put himself in that position, but at least he's trying to find a way home, and he's going against. He's attempting to do something.
There's a redemption arc.
There's a redemption arc there, absolutely. Whereas with Tenet, you're told that a world-ending event is going to happen, and you don't really understand the gravity of the situation, and you don't really understand the scale of the situation, because everyone will talk about things like, oh, if these things happen, then the whole world ends. It's like, well, can you give us a visual demonstration or something like that?
Not just that. You normally, I mean, the films that do apocalypse scenarios very well tend to create an emotional hook by simplifying the story to something you can understand. Like, take the first two Terminator movies.
Yeah.
It's Sarah Connor's journey. You become Sarah Connor. And then in the second film in particular, it's not the apocalypse, it's the struggle to protect her son. That's what cooks you in.
Yeah.
There's nothing really like this in Tenet.
No.
I think Tenet is mostly an exercise in very good writing, but it's an exercise in clever writing, and it's just lost its.
I think if it was setting up for, because there are little things that suggest that you could do another film in this universe.
Yeah,
in a sense, I'm not going to spoil it, but I think if they went down that road, that would be a good idea. That wouldn't be a good idea. I think it would be good. And I think at that stage there is a little bit of an emotional connect there to John David Washington's character. There's a little bit of an emotional connect, because up until probably towards the last couple of scenes, it was just, we've got to do this job. There's no time to be emotion. It's like it's like there's a part of the film where John David Washington blatantly lies to Elizabeth Debicki just to get close to Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like,
it's quite surprisingly underhanded moment.
It's very underhanded in a way, and it's kind of like, oh, I'll help you, and he eventually doesn't. He thinks he's helped her, but he hasn't. But up until then, you're right. There's not much to get emotionally invested with these characters as people. It's only during one or two final sequences that you could go, oh, I feel for those guys now.
Yeah, I mean, there is a spark. I mean, I don't want to criticize this film too much, because I still think the performances were very good.
Oh yeah.
And I thought the chemistry between Washington and Pattinson, in particular, like I found Robert Pattinson's character the most engaging, probably because he's just a bit flippant and a bit cheeky and charming. Yeah. So there's a bit more of a character there.
He's not so dramatic though, darling, is he? No, you have to dream a little bit bigger, darling, and don't be so dramatic. to clearly get Christopher Nolan style characters.
Yep. Are we going to give praise to Michael Caine playing a character called Michael?
So Michael Cosby.
Michael Cosby.
One scene for Michael Caine, but it's memorable.
He's phoning them in. I mean, it's still a delight, but he is totally phoning that in.
Did Christopher Nolan say, hello, Michael, we're filming a film down here in London. Do you want to come for lunch? All right, I'll be right there.
Yeah, do you think that was his actual lunch, that diner scene?
No, he just casually just eating his food, and then Christopher Nolan and cameras
turns up with an IMAX camera.
Just goes, Michael, just keep eating and just have a chat with Mr. Washington as he comes through, okay?
Do you think he had to take the front wall down to bring the IMAX camera in? Like...
Well, no, I think they've managed to get more of a handheld style rig to it now. Oh. It's still, if you've seen the behind the scenes stuff, it's still bloody big camera. But yeah, but no, I think another good question is how it stacks up against some of his other films. Now, and someone asked me about Interstellar, and Interstellar, there are bits that I think visually are impressive, and there are bits that I really like from an intimate level, like the sequence with McConaughey watching the videos. Those sequences are amazing. But it's not a film I instantly go out and think, I know I want to feel the power of cinema. I know I'll watch Interstellar.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock. I think Interstellar is a decent film. It's just, it's not a film that I'm going to go, you know what? I want to enjoy the power of cinema. I'm going to watch Interstellar and I'm going to feel all good again. It's not that sort of film. It's definitely not that sort of film.
It's a mood piece.
It's a mood
definitely
piece.
In the right frame of mind.
I feel Tenet is something I probably could watch a few more times.
I mean, it's definitely a first day purchase for me.
Oh yeah, because again, it's like it's more in line. I think it's closer to Inception in certain parts, but it's kind of like it's like Inception Light, I guess, in a way. Is that fair to say, Inception Light?
Yeah, it feels like it definitely feels like a companion piece to Inception. And I think, unfortunately for Nolan, because he's built such an incredible body of work over the last 15 years or so, that we're always going to unfavourably compare his work to previous films. And Inception was exceptional. It was a genuinely monumental achievement, and I watched it recently, and I was still blown away by it. I think Tenet, I can't imagine not enjoying rewatching it. But I think the spectacle will wear over the years. Yeah. While Inception and the Dark Knight trilogy seem to have held on for me. Prestige, actually, odd enough, still seems...
I need to watch Prestige again. I haven't seen that in a while. I've been trying to watch it around watching Tenet, but I just didn't have time for that.
So it's worth watching for David Bowie being Tesla.
Yeah, true.
I love my little Bowie cameos.
So, yeah, I mean, I think for Nolan fans, definitely go watch it. Because it's an Nolan film. It's an event cinema. You can't watch it.
Beyond that, I'd recommend it for everyone.
I mean, people definitely have been wanting to see this. This made about 5 point. I'll just check my notes here because I have the numbers here. Here we go. So Tenet came out to UK box office and several international markets. It's not in America yet. It's out on September 4th, I believe, or actually September or tomorrow. Actually, I'm not sure, but it's definitely coming out this weekend in select cities. So. Tenet, in its weekend period, grossed £3.27 million, 5.3 for the 5-day period beginning last Wednesday. So 5.3 million for British cinema during a pandemic.
During this pandemic, yeah.
That's quite impressive.
Yeah.
That's very impressive.
And it's interesting because normally we judge the success of a movie at a box office on weekends.
Yeah.
We're going to have to wait till probably a year to sort of... Because this is going to be very much a slow run, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because they're opening it at limited places across the US. So basically, if the city's safe enough to screen the film in controlled social distancing measures, they will.
Well, it's already made back about $50 million. Yeah,
$54 million is the current international total.
So it's clawed back a quarter of its budget in 1 week in the middle of a pandemic, and it's clearly going to be in cinemas for a long time. I mean, like I said, I'm taking Midge in a couple of weeks' time to see it. And I think, I don't think there'll be a physical release. Can you imagine one before Christmas?
No. Maybe a digital release.
Yeah.
Maybe a digital release just to say, hey, it's Christmas, watch Tenet with your family. Yeah. Try and explain timey-wimey stuff.
And maybe a physical release in March.
Yeah, something like that. Because again, it's like...
Oh, do you know what would be a good option on the Blu-ray?
What?
Like, play in reverse.
Get out.
Well,
it's already a feature on a Blu-ray remote.
Yeah, but with the sound, like... You can watch the backwards episode of Red Dwarf, Fords. It's called Fords. And it's great because the actors who are talking backwards, you realise they're talking absolute crap all the way through it. Because Got like Arthur Smith going like, you'd have to be a sad wanker to watch this backwards and know what I'm actually saying, wouldn't you? Like, or words to that effect.
So yeah, Tenet. I think Tenet is still a very good cinema experience for me. I think if you have the opportunity to see this film in the cinema and it's safe to do so, and you feel comfortable doing it, by all means, do go see the film. I think we both still strongly recommend it.
Absolutely.
But obviously, in this time,
be safe.
Be safe. It's at the end of the day, the film is still going to probably be at cinemas for some time, and yeah, like we said, I think this is kind of like it's going to be a slow burner film release, really, isn't it? So
you don't have to worry about spoilers. It's not really a twisty, shocking movie. I mean, there are twists and thrills, but not the Marvel-esque ones.
Not the sudden. He was his dad all along. Not that sort.
Oh my God! Thanos clicked everyone.
And it's like, oh no, click. All that sort of stuff.
Should have gone for the head.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is, it's like you can't miss it at cinemas at the moment. It's like I went
every screen.
I went to the cinema in Reading to watch it the second time around. And it was like, when would you like to see it? 10 a.m, 11 a.m, 12
a.m. I think it was 10 a.m, 10 past 10, 20 past 10, half 10.
Well, it's kind of like, it's about it's just under 3 hours a showing with the ads and trailers. So yeah, it's taking up at least half of your cinema or 3/4. I think the one in Henley has taken up all 3 screens.
I'm amazed that there's any building in Henley aside from like a Tudor pub. To be honest,
to showcase the magnificence that is Tenet. Yeah. So yeah, I think with that in mind, let's go move over to star rating. Despite my reservations, I still enjoyed the film both times, and I'm quite comfortable giving this a 5-star. I think when you rank it against other Nolan 5 stars, it's not at the top.
Yeah,
it's definitely not at the top.
It's not Dark Knight. It's not Inception.
No, but I generally enjoyed myself the first time I saw it in IMAX. I enjoyed myself again watching it second time round. And I think, again, like I said, knowing how the universe works, it becomes a bit fun because you are picking out characters that are going forward and back and forward, and you're going, okay, so that person's doing that now. Right. And I picked out more little details in the film that I thought that I missed the first time round. That I missed generally the first time round. So I'm quite comfortable giving it a 5-star.
I was thinking 4.5, because I think that it's not perfect. There are flaws, but I think you're right. I think I'm just being too harsh because comparing it to other Nolan movies. I think in the grand scheme of things, this is quite comfortably a 5-star movie, I feel. So yeah, I'm happy to stick with 5 stars.
There we go.
Seeing as I'm under the impression the next film we're about to talk about is not getting a 5-star review.
Oh, you might be right there. Right, let's move on to our next and final review of the episode. Let's talk about the New Mutants.
What's its score on IMDb? Is that 5?
It's a 5.7 on IMDb at the moment.
For an X-Men movie.
Well, kind of an X-Men movie. We'll talk about that in a few moments. But yes, this is the New Mutants. 5 young mutants, just discovering their abilities while held in a secret facility against their will, fight to escape their past and save themselves. That, in a nutshell, sounds really, really encouraging, doesn't it? Now, this film has had
production hell.
Well, it's had hell to get to the cinema screen. It was supposed to come out in 2018.
17.
Was it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, blimmin' heck. Must consult the trivia page. Hot trivia. So this film has had 5 release date shifts. Originally slated to come out on April 13th, 2018. It was first delayed to February 19th, 2019 in order to conduct reshoots. Later it was pushed back again to August 2nd, 2019 while Disney's purchase of Fox was finalised. It was pushed back yet again to April 3rd, 2020 to make room for the release of Dark Phoenix. On March 12th, 2020 it was postponed due to COVID-19. On May 13th, 2020 its new release date of 2018 to August 28th was announced and finally released.
And here's the question, Ian. Was it worth the wait?
No.
See, I hadn't realised this film was in production because I'd kind of fallen off the X-Men bandwagon, to be honest. The MCU took over my life. I'm a big fan of the Empire podcast, and every month or so they make a joke about this film's never coming out. So I just assumed it was never going to come out. It felt like some executives had watched the movie, thought, all right, we need to change this. Oh, that didn't work at all. Let's bury it. Like, because I've seen rumors about studio executives wanting to remake the film, like from scratch.
Really?
And when I first heard those, I thought, oh, that's bollocks. Having watched the film, I'm convinced that's almost certainly true, or that was definitely discussed as a possibility.
I mean, let's look at some of the ingredients of this film. It's directed by Josh Boone. Josh Boone has done The Fault in Our Stars,
which I actually liked. I liked a lot. I mean,
I haven't seen. But working at the cinema when the film came out, it definitely made a lot of impact because there was a lot of crying people leaving the cinema screens.
Did you have to mop up behind everyone? Just
it's kind of like, it's so sad.
Oh,
I kind of guessed it's a sad film.
It's a very sad film. The book's even more sad, apparently.
Oh, okay.
Like I've been next to someone who read the chapter that got me in the book, and they just started shaking, and then waterfall,
tears
everywhere. So the chap can clearly make a film. So what the hell happened here?
I don't know. And again, you look at some. I mean, you got Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones.
Have we actually explained the plot?
Yeah, I explained. Five young mutants who just discovered their powers. They're currently housed in
a mental institution,
learning how to control their powers and try and come to terms with how they've become mutants and then escape.
Yeah.
But what we don't mention as well, but which we really should mention, is while the five are trying to come to terms with their mutant powers, they all start seeing very nasty visions of their horrific pasts. So it's like explosions in mines, setting people on fire, branding, all that sort of stuff.
The branding, we'll talk about it in a moment, but the branding scene was so ridiculous.
The thing that sold me on seeing this film originally was the fact that the latest trailer gave it a good sort of, oh, this is kind of like, is this like an X-Men horror film? Okay.
See, that's an interesting concept.
I like that idea. I watched it. It is boring.
Yeah.
It is absolutely boring until the finale bit. But
it's basically, the way I'd sum up this film, it's imagine an episode of Hollyoaks, right, with American accents, and they have the lamest superpowers known to man. Like, Maisie Williams' power is that she can turn into a dog. I thought, oh, cool, she's a shapeshifter like Beast Boy from Teen Titans. No, she turns into a little dog. That's it. How would she be useful for Professor Xavier? Like, oh, there's Magneto. Seek him. Come on, girl. Yeah. Oh, no, you're dead.
No, that's a stick. No, put the stick down.
Can you imagine Sabretooth? Or bloody Juggernaut coming up against Maisie Williams' little dog thing?
Oh, God.
It'd just be like, smash. Over. It's true that none of the characters, aside from what's her name, Ilana Rasputin.
Ilana Rasputin, played by Anna Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, so she's clearly the most physically strong character. She's the only one with an... All right, let's talk about characters first, right?
Okay.
My problems with this film.
Okay.
Character. So each character feels like a really shallow identity tick box. So a character will be representative of some minority, and when I first saw the cast and the characters, I thought, oh, that's really cool. We're going to have we're going to have a lesbian X-Men, we're going to have a Native American or Native Indian X-Men, you've got a Latino, that's really interesting. Watching the film, that is their defining characteristics. They have no personality aside from their particular identity and the trauma of their past. Those can be powerful tools for establishing a character.
Yeah.
But they are not in themselves a character.
I'm going to be honest on those characters. They're not necessarily likable characters either.
I didn't take to any of them at all. Why would you? They're blank slates. They're hardly... There's nothing to... I will give Maisie Williams credit.
Yeah,
I found her character the least dislikable.
Okay, because you look at who's Hemi Zaga playing Roberto da Costa in the film, and he's the guy who can turn himself on fire.
He's basically Human Torch.
He's basically just jock.
He's
Just
he's a dickhead.
wealthy dick jock.
And there's no character arcs in this story whatsoever.
They're all nasty to one another, or they're all nasty in particular to Moonstar. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we better do something together. Oh, let's all be friends. Yay!
Yeah, it's just the jumps in story, the lack of character development. I mean, there's just this isn't even. I normally criticise movies for feeling like a first draft, like I did with Unhinged. That was clearly a first draft script gone straight into production. These are the bullet points before you even write the first draft. This is like brainstorming session. Oof. And the characters they're not likable. They're cliches. It's not even. I've watched MTV teen dramas with better fleshed out characters than this. And it feels like it's definitely trying to tap into the sort of teen market. Ooh. It feels like it's a movie made for MTV viewers, but it's just there's no reason to watch it. There's nothing compelling, and there's so few characters as well. There's only about 6 altogether.
Yeah, 6. There's the 5 students and
the basically
and the doctor played by Alice
who's
Braga.
Clearly the antagonist. I don't understand how those 5 characters couldn't overpower her, kill her, and escape. Especially if Rasputin's, because she's almost the main principal antagonist in this film. And she clearly has the power to overwhelm all of them. Yet she's somehow thrown into solitary confinement at will. I don't understand. There was no real logical consistency in these powers.
Because the story they're told as they come into the facility is, if you control your power, if you're able to be a stable person, we will move you. You will be able to be part of the X-Men School for the Gifted and something like that. Now you think, if you're trying to sell that lie, unfortunately for the spoiler, it's clearly not working for the X-Men.
Well, it's not even something they say. It's something one of the characters assumes, and it's dropped.
It's kind of like, you would think for a villain, if you're trying to sell that lie to those characters, you would do more to keep them on the straight and narrow. Instead of being really strict, you kind of go, oh, here's a letter from, here's a report from Charles Xavier. He's very pleased with what you're doing at the moment. Keep it up. See how you go. No, there's none of that at all. It's just group therapy sessions of how it's like have you come to terms of how you've got your powers?
It's basically it's a poor man's breakfast club set in the X-Men universe. It's true. There's no reason to enjoy this film.
There's the fire one, there's the supernova one, there's the nightmare one, there's the dog, there's the fantasy warrior with the hand puppet.
Oh God.
All of us together. Na 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 na. See, that would be a better film.
It would be a better film. Another thing I have to criticise this movie is just how cheap it looks.
Yeah.
It looks like I was going to say it looks like a student project, but I have student filmmaker friends who've made things that look incredible. This looks cheap and nasty and grey, and just it was the 3Ds. It was dreary, drab, and depressing. Like,
should we have that on a board for you to pull out next time? It's the 3Ds, not 3-dimensional. No. Please bring out your 3D glasses. Merchandise.
Oh, it was basically the cinematographer took one look at this grey mug and went, that. It's true. And there's another things as well. The film has a weird snooty attitude towards the working class through what's his name? Charlie Heaton's character.
Charlie Heaton's, yeah, Sam Gumphrey.
Because he plays a son of a coal miner, and it's kind of implied that like that's a bad thing. Like, I think it's just it feels like it's getting its messages confused.
I think it's a very confusing message, because on one side the character explains that he did it because that's how he's known his whole life, and you kind of understand that, but then they kind of frown upon that, because it's like, oh, but there's so much more to life than just mine is, like,
says the affluent teenage Brazilian millionaire who's never worked a day in his life.
Yeah. That sort of thing, and that's why it's a bit weird.
Yeah, so I like, as you were saying earlier, there are interesting ideas. I like the idea of an X-Men horror movie.
Yeah,
I like the idea of their past traumas being the things they're forced to confront. It's just that the past things are kind of a bit samey. You've seen it done before, and even the most traumatic experience presented. And this is probably spoiler territories, but you're probably not going to watch this after hearing us talk about this anyway. Maisie Williams' character is, from my understanding, she's Scottish and Catholic. And when her priest, a cardinal, I don't understand how a cardinal is her priest, but when the cardinal discovers that she has this power to transform into a dog, he gets a branding iron with a W on, a nice thick Arial W, and brands her with it. And I'm like, have you been to 21st century Scotland, one of the most liberal, the idea of that happening, it really just completely detached the film from any logic or grounding in reality. I know it's a fantasy comic book movie, but you need an element of something to
You kind of think, rather than them talking about their backstories, you kind of wish they showed it a little bit so you get an understanding. Even if it's like a flashback or something like that, you just get a general understanding rather than just the horror envisions of their past,
the ludicrous traumas.
Yeah,
that clearly would never happen.
Because it's like I think the more subtly traumatic thing that they pointed to was the Smiley Men. Now, the Smiley Men are a little bit creepy,
voiced by Marilyn Manson,
apparently. But you've got the Smiley Men, and they are creepy. But the fact of the matter is, it's like they're just kind of like, oh yeah, they just turn up. All right.
It's all window dressing.
It's all that.
All window dressing.
All window dressing for the final threat, which can only be described as Ghost Bear. When Ghost Bear turned up, I was having the time of my life.
It was so naff. Because it's meant to be, I presume it's playing with indigenous mythology. It's just done so clumsily.
That's like you think about Marshall Bravestar, the 80s cartoon, Strength of a Bear, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I think the idea behind the bear makes sense.
Well,
I get it. But
I tell you what, despite how bad this film is, stuff like that makes me want to read the comic, because the comic sounds good. If the comic is this but done well, I'm going to gladly read it. But it's just a shame that
if this is your first
introduction
to the New Mutants or the New Mutants series in that particular way, I know nothing about the comic book series. All I know
it's very niche anyway within this.
But the fact of the matter is, if after watching the film, I wouldn't be inclined to read the comic book.
No,
to be honest. I mean, it's kind of, unfortunately, the New Mutants seems to have come along at a tail end of Fox just leaving the X-Men to die because of the Disney merger.
It's so strange that this is the final movie.
Yeah.
It's I can only think of it's like if the MCU finished on For the Dark Road.
I think everyone would be it's like ending Batman on Batman and Robin.
Well, that did kind of happen for a while.
Well, it did kind of happen. I tell a lie.
But it's because the X-Men series is a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, I think the MCU, there are some stronger MCU movies than there are some weaker MCU movies. But I find, apart from Dark World, even a bad MCU movie is still quite a fun. Like, in my head, a bad MCU movie is Iron Man 2, and I still love that. So I'm like,
Iron Man 2 isn't too bad. It is a bit talkative.
But you're not going to complain watching it.
Yeah.
A bad X-Men movie is this, Last Stand, Wolverine Origins, which I enjoyed, but I could see why people never really.
I would probably still watch Origins Wolverine over this.
Yeah,
and that's simply because. Good cameo by Ryan Reynolds, who set himself up for Deadpool. Liev Schreiber's a decent Sabretooth.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, they're actually getting proper actors in to play villains. This is cool. Oh, wait. That sort of thing. I can't. It's like, I'm not watching this film again. I mean, I wasn't that engaged with it. And when I was engaged with it, it was for the stupidest of reasons. Ghost Bear. And just the havoc Ghost Bear was causing at the end of the film was like, yay, Ghost Bear! This is the most excited I've been in the entire film. And then the film ended, it's like, oh.
I still don't understand how the security of these 5 potentially dangerous mutants is under one person who could clearly be overwhelmed by them.
But they have the power of force field, though.
And like
clearly not strong enough force fields.
No.
Oh, fair enough.
Like,
shall we get this over and done with and give it a star rating?
2.
2.
Yeah.
No, I think 2. I mean,
I was thinking 1, to be honest, but
I mean, like I said, there are bits that have promise. There are elements here that have promise. The execution is poor. It's not engaging. It gets engaging far too late. The characters are not particularly likable. You rarely
they're barely characters.
You rarely get interested in the characters until shit really does hit the fan. That sort of stuff. It's just there are good components here. They just haven't been put together in a good order. Well, they haven't just been. Basically, they've just gone. It's kind of like you're trying to build. This is the weirdest comparison. You're trying to build a perfect shelf to put all your DVDs and Blu-rays on, and someone's looked at the instructions and looked at the screws and then picked up the screws and just thrown them out the window. Okay, build it.
That'll do.
It's slanted and all the DVDs have fallen out. Exactly. Exactly.
Better put it in storage for 3 years.
Anyway, we do have to bid adieu. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you enjoyed Film Raw. Don't worry if you've missed the episode. It will be available straight away on Twitch after this broadcast is finished. And as well, you can catch up on an audio version as well.
Spoiler, we hated the New Mutants.
Yeah, so if you just joined us right now, New Mutants did not do well.
It's crap.
Yes. More.
It's because we're insulting New Mutants.
Dead T. Oh, the hype train's coming.
Oh!
Hype train. So we have a limited time to get exclusive emotes, which we haven't set up yet, but we can do soon. So 94% left of this hype train. Wow, this is
excellent.
Oh, I'm completely thrown by this. This is the power of Twitch. Everything just goes off excitedly. But yes, we are going to finish properly now. Thank you very much for watching. If you have missed the show, don't worry. It's going to be available on Twitch straight away. It'll also be available on a podcast as well in the upcoming few days. We've got plenty of exciting stuff lined up this week as well. Lizzie's back here on Sunday playing Dragon's Age. There's Big Stomp next Tuesday at 8 o'clock. It's host rules, and I'm the host, so I am in control. So this is going to be a fun one. And yes, keep your eye on bunkazilla.co.uk for all things to do with Twitch and Discord. We've got exciting plans coming up. It is September, so do support us here on Twitch. Every little bit helps. It allows us to create such more fun, exciting content, more quiz smashes, all that sort of stuff. It's
more
all
hairy
there.
legs.
More hairy legs, and you're kind of blending into the sofa, according to Lizzie. So
I am actually wearing the sofa.
Yes,
I'm just kind of inverted, and so my legs are poking out.
Inverted, time invert. Oh no, don't confuse me. Don't confuse me. But yes, until next time, thank you much for watching. Keep it cinematic. I have been Ian Bolton, and I have been joined as always by Christian R. Allen.
Namaste.
We'll see you soon. Adios.
Bye.
Bye.